Hey, I'm Warren Sprouse here on the Bible Forum. Do you have a Johnny in your house? Not a John, a Johnny. Can Johnny read? Bible knowledge, which is a foundation of Western civilization, has largely collapsed. According to Gallup, only a minority of American teenagers are Bible literate. Half the graduating high school seniors in one poll thought that Sodom and Gomorrah were husband and wife and that Billy Graham preached the Sermon on the Mount. Johnny knows little to nothing about the Bible, and it's deliberate. Is it possible for a child to be fully educated without basic Bible knowledge, understanding? At the beginning of our republic, the answer was a resounding no. Experts agree that without the Bible, students can't really understand fully the English language, English literature, history, art, music, or culture. In a poll of high school English teachers, 98% said that students who don't know the Bible are disadvantaged when reading English literature. One of the reasons we are taught Shakespeare in high school is because of the language structure. Many of the themes are questionable, but scholars know that the Elizabethan style of writing is constructive when learning to read, as well as learning in general. It apparently has something to do with the way the brain processes this style of writing. There are more than 1,200 documented references to the Bible just in the 36 plays of Shakespeare. Another survey of English professors from Harvard, Yale, and other prestigious institutions found that 38 out of 39 agreed that, quote, an educated person, regardless of his or her faith, needs to know the Bible, end of quote. Now, consider how many homes where the Bible is read. Consider how the Bible has been removed from schools. I listen to at least one paragraph from the Word of God, Old Testament, in King James English every school day of my life. And then we prayed the Lord's Prayer. And we pledged our allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Every day we were in school. Consider the moral code, the objective standard of right and wrong that is listed and presented to us in the Bible. Consider how the Bible lifts us out of our prideful centrality. Consider the teachings of the concept of sin. Now imagine all of that is gone. Children who never know any of this have never been structured in terms of any of these values. Then consider how many differing versions of the Bible exist, none of which preserve the Elizabethan style. Can you say deliberate? Educators are noting the decline in Americans' ability to read with comprehension. In many cases, simply the ability to read. We read how that about 40% of our children are reading below grade level, and a number of these children never rise any higher. And year after year, that same 40% shows up. Then we realize the importance of reading. It's important in terms of job skills. It's important in terms of emergency instruction. It's important in terms of financial documents. It's important in terms of just simple instructions on how to fill out the form. And we see that this percentage doesn't really change. What is wrong with our educational system? What is wrong with our culture? When young children go to school, a large percentage seem eager to learn. Initially, they're learning all sorts of structured things in unstructured ways. Eventually, as they're able to sit still longer, the structure reflects that ability. When they're able to read, most children want to read. So what changes? Well, some of it's technology. You have information handed to you without much effort on your part. It doesn't stimulate you to learn. Some of it's a lack of discipline on the child's part. But can you say that's normal? Few children have great discipline. So is there a lack of discipline on the teacher's part, on the parent's part, on the adult's part as well? Young people would rather, and you can fill in the blank with anything else you want, than sit and read. Until they learn it, until they learn that there are things they can read that interest them and stimulate them, and there are then children who that's all they want to do is read. That's why God gave us parents. But today the parents blame the teachers. In my day, I realize that was 100 years ago, teachers were supported by parents. The kids blamed the teachers. The parents blamed the kids, supporting the teacher. And if there was any reason to not support the teacher, they never let the child know that. They handled it privately. Our inability to read is nothing short than deliberate. We switched from phonetics to sight reading in the 1930s, 1940s, and it changed the entire dynamic. Now children had to learn what the words looked like. Before, they learned the sounds associated with the individual letters, which meant they could read anything you put in front of them. They didn't know what the word was, they didn't know how to define it, but they could pronounce it, they could read it. Who's doing all this to us? And why? Well, the basic answer is the experts are doing this. The educational system is doing this. The behind-the-scenes answer is far more insidious. Think about who it is that has a vested interest in keeping children largely illiterate. America was the first country where every child was given the opportunity for an education. In Europe, it was still only the well-to-do, while the poorer children either begged on the streets or were sent to work in the mills to help the family. In other countries of the world, it was worse. In our country, children may have worked in the fields as well during the day, but parents were more likely to teach them rudimentary principles. In our cowboy movies and others, we see the one-room schoolhouses. We see how important the community thought all that was. I'm talking about the overarching flow of American history and wondering what it was that changed our trajectory. The simple answer comes down to the Bible. The Bible was taken out of the system. Objective moral standards were removed. 50 years after we changed how we learned to read, we took away our moral standard. That Bible, even if you now want to read it, has morphed into hundreds of differing versions, effectively making it so common as to be useless. And that doesn't account for the various versions that have deliberately twisted and distorted and denied the original message in subtle ways and in some cases very obvious. A child who cannot read proficiently is less likely to read the Bible. And when that happens, the enemies of God have won the battle. At least this one. So when you see experts who are playing with basic educational principle, they're not people who have learned a better way. They are people who have learned a way to stop your child from getting an education. And I don't mean deliberately. I don't think they sat down, let's see what we could do. They're part of the problem. And many of them don't even know it.